feature killing FLAW. Please, Blizzard. You are so close to nailing it. I mean, I agree. With the Mythic Plus changes, they really are close to nailing it. They did a pretty damn good job. We'll see how it plays out when the season actually goes live. I like the changes they made to Raid. I like the changes they made to the classes so far. Undermined looking pretty good. They're listening to feedback, and they're trying to set it up to be successful. We'll see if it actually is. But what is Bellular talking about? The one flaw. Let's see what Bellular has to say.
Today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of honestly pretty damn fantastic changes, because after years of stagnancy, raids are finally changing. Blizzard are updating raid progression. But I don't know what I'm going to title this video, but down in my notes here, I have Blizzard's capacity for self-sabotage is legendary as a candidate title. And the reason why is that Blizzard are scared.
It's a negative clickbait title, man. It would have been a good one. Oh, Jesus. I fucking left blurps on. Okay, who the fuck did that? Cadence. All right, thank you, Cadence. I appreciate that. I don't have a fucking
made them conservative.
Well, maybe I do after I saw the Mythic Plus changes today, but we'll let the video
risks them undoing so much good work in how this system is paced. And I really, really hope that they fix this, because if they do, they're onto a real winner. Now, all of this comes from a recent blue post on the future of raiding. Blizzard basically said too many people found the Nerubar raid buff to be too complicated. It was a pain in the ass to track, especially when alts came into the picture. So seeing all the confusion, they realized they needed to do something, and ideally it would be a system that players already understand, that's already warband friendly, and that will let Blizzard reward us over weeks of play. And then it basically hit them. How about we just do a Renown
track?
So
yeah.
Now,
the Nerubar raid buff basically, you know, it walked so this raid track could, this new Renown track could run. That's basically what it was. It was just the preview of what was to come. This new Renown raid track for raiding is amazing. If you don't know, we went through all of the little things here that, you know, this thing's going to give us. It's going to give you longer food buffs. It's going to give you the ability to res outside of combat. You're going to move quicker throughout the raid. There's obviously damage and healing buffs to be had as well. Overall, this thing is just going to make you consistently get buffed the more you do the raid, which was... It goes back to Ian Hazakostas and what he said about how he wants to handle raiding from here on out, in terms of, like, they don't want to just nerf the raid so people can eventually do it. What they'd rather do is buff the players, because that feels better, right? It feels better for you to get buffed rather than the raid to get nerfed. And I agree with that totally, wholeheartedly. So I think this whole thing, this raid Renown track, is a great addition to raiding, and I think it's going to be something that carries forward, and we're going to look back at it and say, damn, how did we ever live without this thing?
Of Undermine, the new raid has got its own Renown track, and it really does change a lot. The most important thing is that this is a 20 rank Renown track, and it needs 20 rewards for it to make sense. So because of that, they started to, well, get cooking. And cook they did, because there are some really cool things that are specifically nice, flavorful, and quality.
Look at even the transmog shit. I mean, there's a ton of shit
filled for raiders.
Repair stations, you know, just all these quality of life things.
And this is really going to work if we can change their mind on the massive mistake with pacing. First, though, let's talk about the rewards. The way it works is like this. We zone into the raid at the hotel in the middle of Undermine, and the hotel lobby is actually the staging ground for the raid. Now, the first rank of Renown comes with profession tables. Yes, so your raid starting hub gets profession tables. That's really nice, a massive upgrade. The second rank then gives us 2 new bonuses. Double eating speed for your food buffs, and it also drops a busted rune dispenser in the lobby. That gives you a chance at a free augment rune each week, so that's pretty good. Now at rank 3, the hotel gets transmog and item upgrade vendors, again dead handy. At rank 4, you'll get a rewards card. Now the rewards card is an in-raid Hearthstone that will take you back to the hub, which of course means if you get drops or whatever, you can go back, you can craft things, you can upgrade your drops, do whatever you need to do in the lobby area. Pretty neat. And that's all.
Fuck! What is wrong with me? Damn, I'm fucking muting the mic. Muting the damn mic. Yeah, partnered streamer, by the way. Yeah. As I was saying, a lot of these things they took from basically other MMOs. You look at Final Fantasy, you've looked across the board at other MMOs, a lot of these are quality of life things in their raids that we've often asked for from World of Warcraft. And finally, we're getting them in this new Renown track. And what's nice about it is, yeah, they could have just given it to us, I guess. That would have been nice too. But the Renown track is going to reward us for doing the raid. One thing that often felt like you're just banging your head against the wall is when you get to that point where you're just doing the raid over and over, maybe for that one best in slot piece of gear that you haven't gotten yet. Well, now, even while you're doing that, you are getting better at the raid. The raid's getting easier. You're getting buffs so that way you can do things quicker in the raid. Not only that, you yourself are getting buffs. So overall, I think the Renown track is what we've been asking for a long time. They took a lot of features from other MMOs, and they're finally putting them in WoW.
Also, where another thing kicks in, the damage and healing buff. Of course, a little like the Narubar situation, but naturally paced through the Renown rather than, you know, a quest that's got like items that you've got to pick up and all of that gumph. The next reward is pretty awesome though. So Renown 5 adds repair stations around the raid. That is great.
Amazing.
And it also removes the sated debuff, and that lets you pop lust for trash without having to train your mage or your hunter how to reset bosses. Again, brilliant. I mean, we've been doing that nonsense for 20 years. And
finally, we're not fucking wiping the raid over and over for people to reset the damn buff.
And they're finally putting an end to it. We can just bloodlust all the time to clear trash faster. Great. Now, at 6, we actually get a proper game changer here. It's a wipe recovery resurrection. So basically, it's an out-of-combat reincarnation.
That's right.
Like what a shaman can do, that you can use. Which basically just means that in a case where, say, you don't have somebody's soul stone to, like, mass res the raid after a wipe, yeah, you can just instantly get back up and you'll save yourself a bunch of running time. And at the topic of runtime, that rank also gets you a 10% out-of-combat movement speed buff. Now, Renown 7 is just more of the health.
Now, one thing that's interesting about this is the people who've been raiding the entire patch and then somebody else comes in and starts raiding, I feel like everybody in the raid is going to be faster than them because of the speed buffs, because there's more than one. So, like, you'll see the entire raid running at 20% speed, and then the noobs in the back falling behind because they haven't raided at all. They don't have any of these buffs.
Damage
That'll
buff.
be a quick way to tell who's raiding and who's
not.
not.
Raid skip though, so this is universal. It's not per difficulty. Just hit Renown 8 like once, and you'll be able to skip to the last 2 bosses of the raid on any difficulty and any character. Which again is brilliant. Renown 9 and 10 give us pets, which are based on the bosses, and they also strengthen the buff again. But, well, we get something quite new, actually, at Renown 11, a token. It's a counterfeit dealer's chip, and this can be traded in for a weapon appearance of your choice from across the different raid difficulties. Now, I can't confirm yet, but I think this might even mean you can get, like, a mythic weapon transmog if, like, you just really want that specific color. Pretty neat. Now, you get 2 of these in total. There's one at Renown 11 and then another at Renown 15. And once you get both of them, then the slot machine boss can actually drop them for you. Again, a pretty neat way, I think, to like work in the theme.
This casino room looks freaking hilarious. I'm excited for the aesthetic of this raid. It's so different from anything we've seen in any of the raids. It feels like even going back to Dragonflight. It's so goblin-y. They've gone all in with like the fucking cardboard palm trees and stuff. This looks great. I'm excited to go in this place.
It also means if you're clearing across all alts and all difficulties, you'll end up picking a decent few of these up, and you can make your way through transmogs. Renown 12, then, is another first for WoW, Hot Sauce. It's basically a fire-breathing damage proc that Blizzard say scales with your raid consumables. So if you've got like your food, your flasks, and your enchants on, and you're popping potions in fights, then I guess your fire breath will do more damage. So that's kind of interesting. This is apparently something that they did to help scale up consumables instead of just them having to make new consumables with every tier to sort of keep them up in terms of power. Then as a nice touch, Renown 14 fixes the rune dispenser I mentioned at the start, and that means that you basically are guaranteed 1 augment rune every single week, and you've got a chance of getting more.
Oh my god, I'm finally going to use augment runes in this season. I always go in raid without them. Now finally we'll have them, because I don't need them, you know. I'm just so good. I don't need no augment runes. But if they're going to give it to me for free, yeah, I'll use it.
Which is, you know, obviously not a game-changing thing, but I mean, if you just want to sell them off, then that's a little bit more income. But the biggest one, this is the big one. It's all the way at Renown 17, and it is the return of the Dinar from the Shadowlands expansion. Of course, it's not called that. It's called a Puzzling Cartel Chip. You'll get one of these, and this will allow you to purchase a weapon, trinket, or a very rare item of your choice. Yes, a very rare item of your choice. That does include the big ticket ones. And basically because these are shared across all...
That's great. That's great. So this is another good thing to have here. What the fuck, guys? Chat's so damn angry at me today. What's going on? Oh, because I had my mic accidentally muted when I start the stream. Jesus.
Difficulties. Blizzard have said these will
Sorry.
work as the Season 4 items did in Shadowlands. That means that they'll be able to scale all the way up to the maximum item level. That'll be, of course, with you doing upgrades. And combined with Gilded Crests coming from Delves, that basically means that, say if you're like a Heroic Raider, yeah, you can get a very rare weapon or trinket or, you know, whatever item
It's great.
at like a maxed out item level, which is pretty damn insane.
Yeah,
That's a
that'll
hell
be
of a lot
insane.
of power. And honestly, those very rare items are often really, really fun. And if you don't get a drop, you just don't get to have that fun. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I wonder if any of these items are going to be there's a lot of cantrip items, you know, like the items that have special proc abilities and stuff like that. There's a bunch of them in this raid. They're really, really cool too. A lot of goblin-esque stuff like a rocket fire, stuff like that. So if one of those items can be got with this and it changes up your rotation a bit or increases your damage because of this stuff, it'd be really cool. It's a good way to grab these things that oftentimes are hard to get.
Be a second one of these, which
Just
will be
for
at
doing the raid a
19,
bunch.
but that'll be it. There's only 2 of them. But still, it's 2
I
items
don't
of your
have the
choice,
anniversary one.
upgradable all the way to the max, and that is, I'd say, actually fairly huge, especially when you remember that every single character you have will get them because this is a warband system. So if you log into one of your alts later on in the patch and you've already got these in your warband, well, yeah, you can just go and pick up a raid weapon and a very rare item immediately. It's honestly us reaching like unprecedented levels of just go play the video game, which is great.
Yeah, great.
You get even more quality of life at Renown 18 because you get an auctioneer in the raid lobby, which basically means if you're a true raid logger and you never want to like leave the raid, cool, you don't have to for your consumables. There's an auction.
Scram Billionaire? What? That's his guild name or something? Anyways, yeah, makes sense. You know, when I first read this, I was like, oh shit, this is going to change the game. And then I remembered, oh, the Long Boy. Like, the Long Boy exists now, so you can bring the auction house to the front door of the raid, so it doesn't really change that much. But, fine. A nice little addition as well.
Auction house in the raid. Yeah, it's kind of insane. And by that time, you'll also have a total of a 30% bonus to move speed out of combat. And of course, at rank 20, the Renown ends, and this one is purely cosmetic.
Oh, is
you
it,
get
Josh?
the title High Roller, you get a teleport directly to the raid from anywhere in the world, just like the dungeon teleports.
Amazing.
And you get the Furious Flare NATO mount, which basically
Freaking
is
badass.
it's the robot dinosaur that you'll have like seen plenty of in social media. You get one.
This is freaking great. You get it just for completing the Renown track. If you do the raid and you're committed to raiding, this is a guarantee. You will get this freaking badass Tyrannosaurus robot mount. Freaking great. I love it.
One of those. It's pretty great. Now, Blizzard did say the rewards are all subject to change, but honestly, as it stands, this ranges from stuff that's pretty cool to, like, holy shit, this
That's true,
changes
J-Mo.
everything levels of stuff. Like, just being able to pick up, like, different items, transmogs, that'll be pretty cool, even just for, like, progressing other parts of your character, and having a cool raid-themed mount that's just there for everybody for, like, you know, completely progressing through the raid. I think that's really great. And all of the quality of life stuff that is here as well. One of the things that is so annoying, like in my guild had so many complaints with Naru Bar, is like you got no upgrade NPCs there. The repair spots are shitty.
Yeah,
There's
that was
barely
annoying.
any skips, and there's the whole dumb slime move speed potions, and this system basically fixes all of those things. Going through the reward list really does make me...
I do feel like overall Narubar was a bit of a step back from Dragonflight rating. I did. I felt like Dragonflight rating was a bit better. Narubar just felt like, yeah, we lost the vendors, aesthetic of it all. The boss fight mechanics weren't too bad, right? I still think the boss fights, they've been more well-designed since Shadowlands. They've really kind of taken a step back and redesigned how boss fights work, and in terms of how annoying the mechanics can be at times. It's not a bad raid in terms of mechanics. But like overall, just the annoyances here and there, yeah, there's a bunch of that going on in Narubar. So it looks like they're trying to fix all that, though, with this Renown track.
Think of that Vince McMahon gif where he's just absolutely pogging out and falls off his chair. But the monkey's paw always curls. So now we've got to talk about how this system actually works.
What do you say? The monkey's pot always curls? Is that some kind of like British meme or something? What is that? I have no idea.
The answer to how this works is fairly simple. It's a Renown, so it works mostly like other Renowns, but this time around, there is a hard weekly cap. Yeah, the other Renowns are gated in a way because you can only get so much reputation, but here the way it works is this. As normal, you need 2,500 rep to go up a rank. The raid has got a total of 5,000 rep available across all of the bosses and trash.
See, this is another great thing. Like, you are not going to be... you're not going to be docked for not clearing the entire raid week 1. Basically, you need to get through about halfway through the raid to be able to move up a Renown every single week, which is not bad. You'll be able to do that likely week 1 or, week 2 if you weren't able to do it in week 1.
So the way you progress this is simple. You go in, you kill stuff as usual. As you do, you'll get loads of reputation. It basically works like raid reps, even going as far back as the Hydroxy and Waterlords from Molten Core. And of course, you'll notice that there's 5,000 rep in the raid, but the cap only goes up by 2,500 a week. Blizzard have done that to make sure the groups who are still progressing can actually still get their renowns each week instead of having absolutely glacial, progress, or maybe having to go to say like LFR just to clear it for the reputation. That side of things, I'd say, is...
by the way, any difficulty. You will get the rep at any difficulty. So, he joked about going into LFR just for the rep, but you can do that. If you're a raider and you're scared about going into normal or something, you can get all the renown track shit by doing LFR and then move into normal once you've gotten all the buffs. It's great.
Yeah, fairly good. Now, catch-up is going to be handled in a similar way to Narubar, where basically the game will recognize how far behind you are, and it will increase the amount of rep that you earn to catch you up quickly, which, in a way, is great and player-friendly. In another way, it's rubber banding that diminishes the meaning of your progress. Blizzard have always found it hard to balance this sort of thing. But before I go into the skewering of that...
But I don't mind catch-up mechanics. I don't. I'm not like the... as elite as I am, I'm not an elitist player. Right? Like, I don't mind catch-up mechanics. It doesn't make me feel like I fell behind or I'm the idiot who was progressing early and I could have just waited. For me, catch-up mechanics is fine, man. Majority of these people are casual players, so let them play the game. It's okay if you give them catch-up mechanics. At the end of the day, a catch-up mechanic is still not going to put anybody ahead of you. If you're playing at the very edge of what you can possibly do that week in progression, you're still going to be ahead of those people. You're still basically being rewarded for being at that cutting edge. The only thing catch-up mechanics does is it brings more people into the fray, right? If you leave everybody behind, there's less people to play with at the end game. So it's okay. Let people catch up. I don't mind it.
It is worth noting that with this working the way that it does, especially with the rewards that it has, if you're just a casual player,
great way to gear up ults,
you can go do LFR, actually have quite a progression thing to go to that has actually got some pretty cool rewards. Now, that being said, what if you in no way want to do this? Well, here's actually a sort of neat thing. This is not going to go away from the game, right? So whenever the season ends and this is no longer the current raid, it's still going to be there. So in 2 expansions time, you could head back and grind up this rep.
That's awesome.
I suppose just like any other rep, which does...
Hey, maybe you didn't get the mount. Maybe you're chasing still some transmog or something. This is great. I didn't know this. So this thing will continue on even after the season is ended. Whenever you go into this raid, your renown track buffs will kick in. Awesome.
I mean that this is kind of content and a thing to progress through that will stand to the game forever, which is a real good thing. But of course, there is bad news. Let's talk about the cap.
Sacred?
Whenever the raid opens at the start of Season 2, the cap will be 2, Renown level 2, and it will go up by 1 Renown level per week. And this is where I've got to say, I just think about my progress last season and sort of say, Blizzard,
yeah,
fucked it. Yeah, no, this is too slow. Stop. Hang on. We need to salvage this. As an example, take that gear token.
Yeah, so only 1 renown per week. That's going to be the cap. So is it 20 weeks to get to the top? Is it really... Does Blizzard expect people to run this for 20 weeks? Is that right? Hold on, let me hear what the cap is again. Maybe I misheard that.
And sort of say, Blizzard. And this is where I've got to do. The cap will be...
Okay, players who enter the raid will begin at Renown 1, unlocked, and globally rising cap 1 Renown per week. For example, week 1, raids will be opening Renown 2, no further regardless. Players starting the raid on the 11th week. Yeah, of course you can catch up one. Okay, wow. 20 weeks. Yeah, that's kind of slow.
2, Renown level 2, and it will go up by 1 Renown level per week.
It's great. It stops
this is where
exploits.
I've got to say,
I don't mind the with time gating it, of course. Yeah, I don't think it should be unlocked to Renown 20. You know how grindy that shit will get early on? People just trying to get to Renown 20 right away. I don't think that should be the case, but maybe like 2 Renown per week. I feel like, if you clear the raid, you'll get 2 renowns, and even if you don't, maybe you clear it up halfway on normal, halfway on heroic, you get 2 renown. Just 1 renown per week feels slow to have people basically not be able to max out until the 20th week of the raid being open. That's a long time.
I just think about my progress last season and sort of say, Blizzard, kind of fucked it. Yeah, no, this is too slow. Stop. Hang on. We need to salvage this. As an example, take that gear token, right? That gear token is at Renown 17.
Right.
That means that you'll get to it by week 16.
Yeah, you might have outgeared that by that point. Like that's you might not even need it. Yeah, it just feels a little bit slow. It does feel a bit slow.
Now, my guild is usually done with heroic progression in 6 to 8 weeks. We only do 2 nights a week. We're pretty casual.
After
and
2 weeks,
chill
you'll be
about
behind
things.
anyways.
We're not going to get that stuff. And
4
especially how
months.
Blizzard have made heroic raids way easier, we'll be done in 8 weeks. We would need to grind out like another 8 weeks to get just that reward. Or if we were being smart about it, we would just take some time off and then blast the rest of the reputation out after that. Or maybe just, I don't know, go do LFR for the sake of the rep. I don't really think that's great, to be honest.
I think their thought process here is that this will keep the raid relevant at least for 20 weeks. Because people will chase the mount, they'll chase the Hearthstone, all this stuff that you get at the very end. But it's kind of a shitty way to keep it relevant, you know? I think people actually will probably dip away and come back and just do catch-up mechanics towards the end because you're just not going to need it by week 20.
I mean, hitting Renown level 20 takes 19 weeks. 19 weeks. That's crazy. That is almost 4 months.
Okay, so not 20 weeks, 19 since you start at 1. Yeah, 4 months.
And that will get boring if it's people just doing a weekly raid. But of course, the way their system works incentivizes you to clear the raid once every fortnight, which then just kind of means that your character progress is very much based on the catch-up system. And I really just don't think that's the right way to do it. I don't think that's motivating for people. And I guess there are ways out here.
It will be adjusted,
one
hopefully.
thing you could do is just have the cap increase by 5,000 a week. Actually, just speed it up and still have some catch up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another thing is just to reshuffle the rewards. I mean, if you think about those loot tokens, if they were for regular gear, them being at like 17 and 19 makes no sense. Because
I agree.
At weeks 16 and 18, you're going to be geared up. You won't really...
Yeah, they should probably front load the loot related things towards the front, certainly, because that's when you're going to need it. You're not going to need probably a heroic piece of raid gear in like the 19th week of the raid. It's probably not going to be the case. So they should front load the rewards for gear and gear progression related things towards the front and then cosmetics towards the back. This way, people are still running the raid by week 19. Okay, they're doing it for cosmetic purposes. That's it. The gear won't be irrelevant because right now these coins are most likely will be irrelevant by the time you finally get to them.
You need that gear unless it's one of those very rare items, I suppose. But I do think there's a foundational point here because
Konise
if a
said the
raid
same thing,
team
yeah.
is still progressing, say, heroic mode by week like 16 or 18, these very rares and stuff, they won't really be that useful. Those are the people who usually would be relying on Blizzard just nerfing a boss or the actually designed nerf, which is the damage and healing buffs that happen. That's what happened in Naribar as an example.
Right.
But right now, you get the 3% damage and healing buffs at week like 6, 10, 13, and 16. But I'd then say, like, Blizzard, do you know what gear does? Gear improves our damage and our healing. That's why Blizzard added Thunderforged gear, Warforged gear, and then
Right.
Titanforged gear to WoW. They wanted it so that whenever people kept on re-clearing a raid, they could get slightly better gear to increase their chances of clearing bosses.
True.
Now, if you want to improve player power, I would say the best way to do that, first, is via gear, and second, via buffs. Because if you do it via gear, it does feel more earned and player-driven and interactive because it's somebody building out their character. So with these gear tokens, I think they should be swapped into an earlier place in this Renown. Yeah. I think they should be there earlier so that people are progressing because they're gearing up and building their character.
I did not fucking pre-watch this, but this is the most obvious solution. Put the gear at the beginning because that's what people are going to want early on, and that's what you're going to need early on. You don't need gear on week 17. So yeah, it's an obvious solution. That's why we're all coming up with the same solution.
And then the just flat damage healing buffs perhaps happen later.
By the way,
we
this is
also need
only
to take
for
this
raid,
in
which I'm
context
like,
because
why
there
not
is
for the
a piece of
dungeons?
guaranteed gear that many players got near the very start of a season that they're not going to get this time round. That's because Blizzard are removing the gear token from the Keystone Master PvP 1600 rating or ahead of the curve achievement. That's how a lot of people would have completed their like 2-set or 4-set early on in a raid season. So as an example, say it's like week 6. There's a guild who is progging the third to last boss. What would feel better to that guild? That they unlock a gear token, people kit out their characters with some cool new things, maybe, I don't know, some tier sets are completed, somebody gets a weapon that's really good, and then they progress the boss.
Right.
Or they progressed the boss because everybody just got a 3% flat buff. I mean, come on, it's obvious that one of those is going to feel better than the other.
Yeah, the first one for sure.
Psychology 101. Now, there is another option as well. How about this? You could get either a boost to reputation for defeating Galliwix on like normal, then maybe another one on heroic. So if your guild has completed their main goal, like say ahead of the curve, but still needs 12 weeks worth of rep to like get the title and the mount, I mean, Blizzard, you're basically telling people to either show up and go through the motions, or to stop and wait
for the catch-up mechanics.
Means that it's way less of a grind. Neither of these are good ways to engage players. Now, to be completely clear, I think this is a well-intentioned system.
It's a great system.
Most actually of its parts are really cool. This is fundamentally exciting to me, and I think it will be really healthy for the future of the game.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I also know World of Warcraft players and time gating, they are really... it's quite a mix,
like oil and water
at this stage. Like, come on, we've been talking about time gating for such a goddamn long time, and I understand all of Blizzard's fear-based reasons to not let this be a speedy thing, and the reasons why they would want to like gate it for the sake of fairness and balance between the different difficulty modes. But that being said, WoW's not an esport, and I do think that WoW tends to be more defensive in its reward design than most video games. I mean, as an example, look at the Siren Isle, which is where you'll get your veteran catch-up gear.
Right.
But then you look at Delves, and the little Murloc dude who sells you what's supposed to be alt catch-up gear from Delves. And from the start of the expansion, it's been completely useless. That's a great example of something that
even there.
made sense to be there, but its implementation meant that to players, it was of fundamentally zero value. But that said, there is one thing here that is of good value. What this system and this raid does is up the level of flavor and storytelling, though of course they could do it a little bit more. Blizzard said one of their stated goals here is actually storytelling. The quote is, supplement the storytelling and setting of the raid to improve immersion and flavor.
Yeah, I think the Renown track does a good job of that. It's very much like Goblin-esque. It makes you feel like you're gaining reputation with the casino. You know, you're getting chips and stuff and cards and things like that for the kid. I think they did a good job wrapping it in with the lore. It does feel like, okay, yeah, the more you're in the casino, the more the casino kind of rewards you for being there. They give you certain vendors and buffs and things like that. I think it fits in pretty well lore-wise.
We are doing a good bit of that, but not really as much as we perhaps could have. I mean, I don't know, I think about like Varian and Sarfang and ICC, the rings, of course, that we were then in ICC able to eventually buy with the Ashen Verdict, our buffs and our bonuses, those things feeling like they're maybe more part of the raids. Like, I do like the way that it's your like Galagio membership card.
Yeah.
But in the future, what I'd love to see is these buffs coming from NPCs. There being story to these buffs, story to these rewards, so that it, I mean, in this example, would systemically really feel like we're liberating Undermine bit by bit, rather than just upgrading our rewards card at a hotel. That being said, I do like the flavor that they've got here, and I think this is a serious step forward. If they do it right, this will be big for WoW going forward. It will be big for raiding, and at least in my view, raiding in a lot of its design, I don't mean bosses, I mean just like the overall system, it has been stagnant for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
This is it finally moving and shaking, and I love to see that. With a bit of a tweak to timing and rewards, this will be a banger, and honestly, this is only their first draft, so I'm excited for the future. The potential is really big, I want it to succeed, and, well, if you'd like to see another game feature, check out what they're doing with Delves, because if you're an LFR, normal, or heroic raider, and you maybe don't like Mythic Plus, damn, it matters to you.
Yeah, Delves are great, but look, the Renown track, I think it's a great thing they added to the game. And of course, as he said, this is their first iteration on it, so there's going to be, you know, tweaks and things that need to be made. I do hope that they make the change about the gear shit to be earlier on, before this actually goes live. I hope they're listening to feedback right now and they make these changes, because I think they're necessary. Otherwise, honestly, getting those Renown coins later on for the gear is going to be it's going to be a transmog piece. It's going to be completely useless. So hopefully they make those changes before this goes live. But overall, the Renown track, I think, is going to be one of the best things about 11.1.